Okay, good morning, everybody. It's Sunday morning, and I'm going to just do a quick update because I made a mistake. I listened to NPR radio news just now, 5, 10 minutes ago. Let me just talk about it. NPR radio news is these PBS and NPR, I believe, and these news shows actually are tax dollars sponsor a portion of these news things because they're supposed to be unbiased, not a political, but they are very political. And to just do it real quick, they started at 8 o'clock my time in Texas, and it talked about this is just a little news update. But Mr. Trump, believe it or not, the leader of North Korea, Kim Jong-un, decided to have talks with Mr. Trump, which would be the first time an American president sat down with the leader of North Korea. Now, initially, and even in the past, a lot of people felt it would be good to have talks. And this was in a process of tough talk from Mr. Trump, a lot of people disagreed with. But anyway, and then South Korea, we just had the Olympics in South Korea still going on. And so, through a process of things, and then the trend in the media began to be negative on Trump meeting with the leader of North Korea, but yet the same media would be very happy if this happened under Mr. Obama, because they were very happy that a deal was made, a nuclear accord with Iran, which would also be in the same questionable category of. Okay, so that was on the news from NPR. Then they also said they played clips from Mr. Trump, being it's like a Sunday and the review of the week. And they said, and Mr. Trump basically falsely claims that we are biased, like against him. It showed a couple of clips of Trump saying, well, if this was a former president, the news would be happy, which is probably correct. Okay, and so the NPR news is trying to dissuade you and the public that they have any particular bias in their reporting. Now, the next story, this is the one that I said, oh, here it comes. Mr. Trump also put tariffs on imported steel. Now, he exempted Mexico and Canada, but they're the steel countries we import steel from. For many years, it was not, they were breaking the rules, and it was not really fair and equal trade. Now, historically, Democrats would be defenders of American steel workers and American union workers. Mr. Biden criticizes former Vice President Joe Biden. He criticizes the Democratic Party for kind of becoming more of identity politics and forgetting their base. And Mr. Biden from the Northeast, has a big union background in his life. Okay, so the story goes on the news. They're against now what Mr. Trump did, which really was trying to defend the union steelworkers and to really get some fairness in this whole particular issue of steel. Because a lot of the steel industry, now there's a debate, will other things go higher because of the imported steel? But in just fairness, and even Mr. Obama during his presidency, I remember he got criticized for certain things about taxes, but some of the things he said were just to be fair. Now, I think what Trump did, honestly, it doesn't really, his base really isn't for it. Just really the Democratic base, he made a promise, I'm going to do something about these tariffs, and he simply did. He's in the process of doing it. Now look how the news, NPR News, reported this. Then they had a commentator on that said, and why is Mr. Trump basically doing this? Trying to help the American steelworker by this. And I saw it coming. They said in essence, it's really not about helping the steelworkers, but it's hearkening back to a time, here it came, in the 50s, 1950s and 60s, where manufacturing base, factories and so forth, Bruce Springsteen made songs about Youngstown, Ohio. And these are parts of our country when you had, the industrial, not revolution, that was before, but we were beneficiaries in the strong manufacturing. And then things have changed over time. We have more of a tech, we're trending into techno. So this commentator said it wasn't really about Mr. Trump so much keeping his promise to the Democratic Union Steelworkers. It's about him hearkening back to a time in our country that is basically racist. It was him like a dog whistle, meaning everything he's doing, it's not to help the steel worker, it was appealing to racism and to the rise of the white man. That's the innuendo they gave. Believe me, they gave it. And I saw it coming as they were reporting, because the commentator said it goes back to the 50s, and it goes back to the time in this country where, you remember after the wars during World War II and all, made in America, buy things made in America, all of that. And they said that's basically what this is about. So the simple decision to keep his promise to the steelworkers, which his own base and others probably it's not popular with. It's not popular with a lot of Republicans. But he did it. And now the same news media that says they are being blasted for being biased, the next report they found racism, if you will, KKK, in trying to get fairness in steel. Now this will go on. Their goal is for either the impeachment or the resignation of Mr. Trump. That might actually happen depending on how things trend. And I think a lot of this that we are caught up in, the country, are missing the big issues. I think a lot of us are missing the big issues because there are real issues, important issues. So I'm going to just do that as an update because not only when you put that out is news, our local media does the same thing. You have young people in the country, young black kids, young white kids, and as they grow and you just threw something out to them that is not only a lie, but plays into the divisions. But you do that on a nightly basis. You do not report news. And you say, John, it's just because you don't like liberal media. I watch Democracy Now! And they do a great job. And I'll tell you, they are much more liberal than the mainstream news. I read TruthDig, which is an online liberal news site. Look, if you have a liberal slant, I don't mind, as long as you cover news. But if you have a liberal slant and all you're doing is these games nightly, night after night, the present thing of the Trump paying off that porn star that he had an affair with. There's a lot of people that say I've read articles, this is the immediate either resignation or imprisonment of Mr. Trump. Say if he paid off that porn star because he maybe was accused of raping her. That would be a problem. And I didn't dislike Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton, I think, paid off Paula Jones for an accusation of forced sexual act. There was also another lady, Juanita Broderick, who claimed rape. There was a few of them. And money was paid to Paula Jones, not to cover up an affair, but it was a civil settlement that Mr. Clinton made. Now, that was before his presidency. Of course, that was done. So the same media that believed if you pay off a former person because you either had an accusation of rape or a sexual harassment, then that same thing happened with Mr. Clinton in the Oval Office when he was president because of the famous intern Monica Lewinsky. Now, we we condemn and say it's all sin, all of it, outside of marriage. But yet that same media says if you paid someone because both sides agree it was a consensual affair. Mr. Trump has not admitted to it yet, but nobody is saying he paid off somebody because he had an accusation of rape against them, or an accusation of forced sexual advance, or an accusation that he preyed upon an intern. And also, Miss Monica Lewinsky was an intern. Mr. Clinton is not only the president, but he was her boss. And she was in her young 20s. And in our society, that's the whole Me Too movement and everything. Now, why bring it up? Because the media and many in the news felt all of that was a non-story. And some in the news feel the present thing is not only for him to resign, but possibly let's get him in jail. You played the game. I just gave you the game. NPR News said the reason Trump tried to bring fairness to the steel imports was because of racism. Because he hates the black man and because he wants to see the rise of whitey. Though you did not use those terms, that's exactly what you just fed in to everybody that listened to that show.